Hello, everyone, and Merry Christmas?
I'm confused.
I know we're in the middle of July. Let me explain. I took a trip at the start of my summer to Universal Studios. And while I was in the LA area, I stopped by this awesome little board game shop in Burbank called Geeky Tees. And I came across this Silent Night, Deadly Night, the board game. Now, I was already a big fan of the movie, so naturally I was interested. But because there's no images or instructions on the box, I didn't know what I'd be getting myself into, so I almost didn't buy it. Luckily, the store manager was actually willing to open a copy for me right there in the store so I could check it out. And the first thing I noticed was how well this was put together. The overall artwork and theming were so well done and immediately recognizable to anyone even remotely familiar with this franchise. The pieces were also really high quality, a lot better than I thought they would be for a game like this. I was worried they'd be really cheap and flimsy, but the pieces are actually sturdy. The gameplay itself seems pretty simple. There's a little board that you move around on and a spinner that tells you your actions. It's pretty much like a horror version of Candyland, so there doesn't seem like there's a big learning curve. Altogether, I was impressed enough to buy myself a copy. Now, at some point, I may actually open this, but for right now, I just like that it's part of my collection. Anyway, you're not here for a review of Silent Night, Deadly Night, the board game. You're here for a review of Silent Night, Deadly Night, the movie.
Punish!
Now, the copy that I have is actually a double feature that includes both the uncut original version and the sequel. And honestly, if you're interested in the franchise, these are the only two worth watching. The first one is by far the best, and the second one is a bit of a drop-off. Okay, not gonna lie, it's awful. But thanks to its over-the-top cringe, it's at least a fun movie to watch.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
As far as the rest of them, don't even bother.
No one is normal.
So the original Silent Night, Deadly Night came out back in 1984 during an era completely saturated with slashers. A Nightmare on Elm Street, believe it or not, came out the exact same day. There were new Halloween and Friday the 13th sequels being released pretty much every year. And there were countless other slashers out there trying to cash in on all of the rage. So what set Silent Night, Deadly Night apart from the rest of them? Well, for one thing, it's about a killer Santa Claus, which immediately caught the attention of critics and parents who all thought this movie took it too far, making Santa Claus the killer. And within about a week of its release date, the movie was pulled from theaters. Now, on the surface, the controversy makes some sense. A movie about a killer Santa Claus, I can see why parents might be upset. But I absolutely love it. It's got all the right amounts of horror and nudity and campiness that just make it such a great 80s slasher. And I actually think it's much better than most of the others. First of all, it has a surprisingly strong story. It's nothing profound or exceptionally remarkable, but for a campy slasher, it's better than you'd expect. The movie opens on Christmas Eve, because of course it does. Our main character, Billy, is taking a trip with his parents and little brother to visit his grandpa in a mental institution. Grandpa is pretty much catatonic. He just sits there and stares into space.
Why doesn't Grandpa say something?
He doesn't hear us, honey.
Which really begs the question.
Then what did we come for?
Anyway, Billy's parents think it's a good idea to leave him alone with Grandpa while they go talk to the doctor. And it's here where Grandpa suddenly grabs onto Billy and tells him the true nature of Santa Claus.
Christmas Eve is the scariest damn night of the year. I'd be scared too if I was you.
According to Grandpa, Santa only rewards the good boys and girls.
All the naughty ones, he punishes.
Well, at about the same time all of this is going on, there's also a crazy man in a Santa suit running around killing people. And wouldn't you know it, Billy and his family happened to come across this man on their way home from visiting Grandpa.
Do you see what I see?
He must be on his way to a party.
They stop to offer help, but it doesn't work out well. Billy manages to escape and hide behind some bushes, where he watches as Santa Claus murders his mom and dad.
Hey, you little bastard!
Yeah, I can see why this movie might have stirred up some controversy.
Naughty! Naughty!
Shortly after, Billy and his little brother are taken in by a local orphanage, and it's actually here where Billy's delusions about sin and punishment are reinforced. The nun who runs the orphanage, Mother Superior, is a very cold woman who doesn't show the kids much affection.
I'm sorry, Mother Superior.
I don't think so. But you will be. You will learn what it is to be sorry.
She's strict and abusive, and she beats the kids as a punishment for whenever they get into trouble.
Now go to bed.
At one point, she actually ties Billy up when she finds him wandering around at night. Anyway, the movie eventually jumps ahead 10 years, and we're reintroduced to Billy as a surprisingly well-adjusted young man despite everything he's been through. He gets a job at a local department store where things seem to go well, so much so that we get treated to a 2.5-minute montage showing us just how good of an employee Billy is.
On the warm side of the door.
That is until we get closer to Christmas. Billy starts to show signs that maybe he hasn't come to terms with everything that happened to him as a child after all.
Come here, you little bastard!
And to make things worse, when another employee who was supposed to be the department store Santa breaks his arm, the manager chooses Billy to take his place. And this is where things really start to fall apart. All of the trauma and delusions surrounding Christmas and Santa start to surface with Billy.
You're being naughty. I don't bring toys to naughty children. I punish them severely.
Eventually, he completely loses it when he sees a couple of his co-workers being naughty in the back room. And he takes matters into his own hands the only way he understands. Keep in mind that going forward from here, there's a lot of video that I couldn't capture because there's just so much nudity. So you'll have to settle with pictures. Anyway, after he kills the rest of his co-workers, he spends the rest of the night rampaging all over town, taking out anyone being even remotely naughty. From a couple of teens engaging in premarital affairs.
Punish!
To a couple of bullies picking on some kids. Well, in the meantime, the police are trying to track down Billy, holding up every man they see in a Santa suit.
Hold it. Stop right there.
Daddy.
Daddy?
The police go so far as to actually gun down this poor guy visiting an orphanage. Yeah, killing Santa Claus in front of a bunch of orphan children. I can see why this movie might have stirred up some controversy.
Very naughty.
Well, don't worry. Billy sees to it that that trigger-happy cop gets what he deserves.
Punish!
Finally, what's left of the police manage to track down Billy and shoot him in front of a bunch of orphan children. What?
Naughty.
I started this review by saying that this movie has a good story, and I stand by that. Not the second half. The second half is a typical slasher that's perhaps on the sleazier side of things, but the first half? I was always impressed at how much character development went into Billy. From his grandpa filling his head with crazy ideas about Santa Claus, and then immediately witnessing Santa actually murder his parents? I felt like that was enough to set the stage for the second half. But this movie took it further. They actually deepened Billy's trauma at the orphanage. So it really does make sense when Billy finally snaps. And dare I say it, you kind of feel bad for the guy. And that's something unique about this movie. This is one of those rare slashers that actually gives you the killer's perspective. There's no group of teenagers that we focus on. There's no main character that we're supposed to root for while their friends are being picked off one by one. Billy is the main character. He's the only one that you can identify with. And I guess that can make this a little uncomfortable to watch, but whatever. I don't watch horror movies to feel at ease. And finally, regarding the controversy surrounding this movie when it was released, like I said, I get it. I understand why parents and critics would look down their noses at something so violent and sleazy, especially when it has to do with a character as beloved as Santa Claus. But pulling it from theaters? That was not just too far, but counterproductive to their overall agenda, because we all know what people do when they're told they can't do something. Silent Night, Deadly Night brought in over $1.4 million in its opening weekend. For comparison, A Nightmare on Elm Street, which came out the same day, didn't even make $1.3 million. Altogether, Silent Night, Deadly Night only spent about a week in theaters and brought in over $2.5 million. People were lining up for blocks to watch what they were told they shouldn't. And since then, this has gone on to become a cult classic. People all over the world are still enjoying this, even in glorious high definition. So I think it's safe to say, be careful what you cancel, because it can blow up in your face.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
Now, for those of you who stuck around to the end of this video, I want to give you a heads up about some additions that will be coming to my channel soon. I recently started streaming on Twitch. Nothing fancy. Right now I'm playing something called SnowRunner, which is like a truck simulator of sorts that I mostly like to put on to relax. Anyway, I've been streaming there for a little while now, and I was planning on having it be separate from my YouTube account altogether. I figure I'm already talking about movies and books here, and bringing in video games might make things more complicated. But it turns out Twitch deletes every upload after a week or so.
Naughty.
And even though these live streams are, like, for the most part pretty long and uneventful, there's something about just deleting them that really bothers me. So I've been thinking about how to keep them. And so far there's, from what I see it, a couple of options. I could continue streaming on Twitch and then upload the videos onto YouTube, or I could just stream directly onto YouTube. I think it makes the most sense just to start streaming here. So sometime soon, expect to see me start going live from time to time. If you're interested in getting a head start on my streams, you can check them out at twitch.tv/toobadaboutkenny. Don't worry, I'll leave a link in the description. And finally, if you happen to live in the Southern California area and you want to check out that board game shop, it's called Geeky Tees, and I'll also leave a link to their website in the description. That's it. Thanks for watching, everyone. My name's Kenny, and until next time, let's not just watch movies and read books and play video games. Let's talk about them too. Movies, books, games. What's next? Food reviews. Why not?
Too bad about Kenny, huh? Life in a big city.